You eat a cold. You don't catch a cold. You eat a cold. You eat something. Obviously, you go, oh, I feel bad. Next thing you know, you got symptoms. Next thing you know, you have a cold. Most of the time, people are eating a cold. And this is where, one of my favorite tools and one of your favorite tools, I'm just going to get one out so we can all see it. Shervine and I are both huge fans of this right here, which is charcoal, just simple charcoal to make sure you do not eat a cold. As simple as that sounds. You talk to some of the best doctors, some of the most open-minded doctors out there, they're going to say you eat out, you eat with charcoal. You have it in your meal. Because when you eat out, you don't know whose hands have been on there. You don't know what's going on. This is just, as far as I can tell, COVID-19 is just a little bit worse than SARS was.
Yeah.
And I do want to say this. Yes, we can go to the silver route. We'll get into silver. Yes, we're going to get into the medicinal mushrooms. Yes, we're going to get into all of that stuff on this call that we have together. But first and foremost, the number one thing against viruses is oxygen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I have an angle on that, but let me just start us out, and then I'll throw it to you.
Okay, sounds good.
I had a friend who had SARS, and he had 3 months of symptoms. He was in bad. His lungs were really in trouble. He was coughing for 3 months. I had him come to my office. This is way back when, and I had my ozone machine. So I have an ozone tank, an oxygen tank, through an ozone system, the same. It's a plasma fire system, old one. Basic design was designed by Nikola Tesla back in 1901. And then that comes out of a tube. The final oxygen coming through the ozone comes out as a tube. And then that's an electrified oxygen or ozone. Yeah. And then you can't breathe that. You cannot breathe that. It's too aggressive. It'll actually attack your mucosal lining. So you bubble that through olive oil, and then you can breathe that. Now, we did that for 2 hours in my office one night. He was completely cured in one night.
Wow.
I've done that with other people over the years, and I'm, you can't use the word cure unless you're curing a ham. So nobody was cured of anything. Because we live in a free country, we live in a free world, so we can't use certain words because we're free. And so I'm just going to throw that out there. So I'm going to just tell you right now, this whole thing could be stopped instantly with no trouble whatsoever at every hospital, every doctor's office, every airport if they wanted to. Because the technology has been known since Nikola Tesla in 1901. I've used that technology successfully for over 20 years. Never had a respiratory infection, no cough, cold, flu, or fever in all those years because it's already been figured out. So just want to put that in there. Go ahead, Shervine.
No, I think that's beautifully said. I mean, we have our every ozone apparatus in this house is set up. I have a standard ozone machine right here that we ozonate our water with. I have intravenous ozone set up, ready to go. We're letting the ozone just run through the oil over here, so it just circulates through their house. It's always good to have that because, this place is raining, there's moisture, there's bacteria. The less burden we can have in our body, the better. It's ultimately about layering things. And I think it's interesting that you brought up oxygen. We just got one of those live-on oxygen machines. Have you seen those?
I have not.
It's a big oxygen tank, and
you put an oxygen concentrator?
It's an oxygen concentrator. You put the mask on, and then you ride the bike, and you slowly remove oxygen from your air supply. So you go somewhat hypoxic. And then once you hit a certain RPM, you immediately flush the oxygen on. This is like hyperbaric, but times 100. And it forces the oxygen directly into the deepest parts of your body. Way stronger than atmospheric pressure of a hyperbaric chamber. You haven't seen that? Oh man, we just got the whole system.
Oh my God.
So yeah, because I'm getting ready for Peru, right? And so
right.
Okay, let's get the most highest end technology here. So it's LiveO2. We have that in the house. And then I want to, bring up the nebulizer right here. So everybody needs a nebulizer. This is critical. I recommend Omron. They're a little bit difficult to get because it is a medical supply. And so this right here, we can nebulize anything. We can nebulize herbs. We can nebulize the coated silver that both me and you offer. We can nebulize anything, minerals, all kinds of stuff. The fastest way of getting nutrition in your body, even faster than IV, is through the lungs. And so that's why our lungs, I would say, is like, that's where everything takes place. That's the oxygen exchange. That's where the alveoli are. That's where, any of these respiratory diseases actually kill you. That's how it happens. You get kidney failure because of lack of oxygen. These things are all tied into the center point of our breath. And that's another thing that leads me back to Are you meditating? Are you doing breath work? Are you oxygenating your chi? Are you doing those things? These are all important things to do. When I looked at COVID and I was like, okay, so what exactly is killing people? How is this killing people? What is the action, right? It's the alveoli, which are the tiny little air sacs in the lungs. There's 600 million of them. And there's a small little microscopic sized diffuser that oxygenates the blood through the alveoli. And if we have an acute inflammation reaction, which means a cytokine storm happens in the lungs, all of a sudden, all of those alveoli get inflammation and they plug up and they get in, and basically stop the transfer of oxygen. That's the center point. So we want to keep the lungs clean. We want to keep them, pristine. And how do we do that? We do that with breath work. We do that with knowing what's in our house. You're the king of ozone. You're the king of HEPA filters, things like that. We want to make sure the circulating oxygen is clean. If it's a stale room, you're in trouble. You don't want to go to places that are stale. You want to go to places where there's movement. And you want to keep the circulating air as clean as possible, and you want to nebulize. You can see it right here.
Yeah, let's see the brand of nebulizer that you got there. Is that an Omron? Which one is it?
This is an Omron.
It's an Omron. That's just so everyone can see which one it is. And what do you got there? Silver? Is that what's coming out of there?
I got coated silver in here. So basically, I took 1 drop of the coated silver. I diluted it in 8 ounces of distilled water right here. And I use my dropper like this, squeeze dropper. This is how we mix a lot of the products at the house and mess around with stuff. I dropped it right in there. And for the last, 2 weeks, I've been taking big puffs out of here and just doing it. I feel better, because silver kills anything that does not belong in the body on contact.
Yeah, and well, anything that's anaerobic.
Correct.
It chokes it off.
That's nitrogen breathing, right? And bacteria, pathogens, not friendly flora. And what's interesting is the doctors know this. The doctors are aware of this. They have silver in the hospitals for a reason. And it's crazy that there's so many MDs out there that are battling the silver wave. And I think, it's a combination of things. I think they're just getting pressure. I think that they're dealing with their scientism guilt, right? So it's just they can't even comprehend that something as simple as an element can be this backbone of our life. It has to be something that's made in some lab somewhere that they're paying 10,000 times more than what it costs to develop. You know what I mean? That's the industry we're in. That's the reality that we're in. So we got to do everything we can to spread this information, get people the tools that they can, and curb the fear, curb the craziness, and the reaction, the visceral reaction of like what they're seeing on TV and all of this stuff.
I was thinking, this is, so crazy with what's been going on. And as you know, we are dealing with so much hypochondria. It's insane. Yeah. The hypochondria is absolutely out of control. This is a flu, you guys. This is just a bad strain of flu. And as what normally happens with a bad strain of flu, people who are elderly, people who are immune compromised are more susceptible. And that's exactly what we've seen with this so far. This is not some kind of a pandemic that the World Health Organization has now labeled it, or the Communist News Network, or whatever other fake news is out there. It's just they're all in collusion because, when we were kids, Shervin, when we were little kids in the 80s, we didn't see any drug companies running commercials on TV. But there was a time in the 90s where all of a sudden the drug companies took over TV. They were running all the advertisements. Yeah. So that tells us who's running TV.
Absolutely. Right? It's so obvious. It's like almost too much in your face that you can't believe it. Kind of like the Bush presidency was so bad that it was funny, right? It was like, how could anything get worse than this? So we're just going to tune out and let it go. We just do our other, like part of our other lives. And it's funny because if you really think about how the pharmaceutical system works, it's clear. There's a fiduciary obligation to turn a profit every quarter, meaning you have a legal obligation to your shareholders who own you to turn a profit. But we're talking about drugs that are supposed to help people, Now, here's the thing. Pharmaceutical drugs are not meant to heal you. They're there to mask the symptoms. They clearly tell you that in their own marketing, not to mention all the side effects that come with it. So why are we putting duct tape over the check engine light of our Ferrari instead of immediately taking it to the shop and getting it fixed? Imagine you bought a $2 million Enzo Ferrari, okay? And you took it out for a drive, and all of a sudden, warning light, check engine, this and that. Would you pull out some black duct tape and put it over it and keep driving? Of course not. Our bodies are infinitely worth more than a freaking Ferrari, right? It's so crazy. It's like, am I taking crazy pills? What's happening here?
What's happening is that I think the system that's running things, and has been running things our whole lives, is starting to get a little bit shaky. They're getting shaken. Like, for example, the CDC is in court right now, and they cannot produce the evidence in court that vaccines don't cause autism. They